First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my dad with a kidney transplant after he spent years denying he's my father? Okay, so I'm sure this might seem like a not the a-hole thing because it's my body, my choice, but everyone is coming down on me hard over this. Backstory. When I was 8, my dad found out my mom cheated on him. They tried to work it out, and I remember for years after, he just became a total jerk to me. It's like a switch went off and he suddenly hated me, which seriously hurt. I have 2 older brothers and he always excluded me from everything he did with them. For a long time, I didn't get it. My parents used to fight over this, and I learned it was because my dad was convinced that I wasn't his. Yet, he didn't want to get a paternity test. His only argument was that I was the only son who didn't look like him and looked more like my mom's side of the family. They divorced and my dad only fought for custody of my brothers. Well, my mom passed away when I was 13, and I was sent to live with my maternal grandparents. By 17, I pretty much gave up and tried to have a relationship since he clearly didn't view me as a son. That changed 3 years ago when my brother and I, now 29, took a DNA test that showed we were full siblings, not half. We even had my grandma, his mom, do one too and confirmed he was wrong this whole time. Suddenly, he was calling me nonstop, but I told him to stay out of my life. He basically showed me how easily he can drop his paternal love, and I didn't want him around. I had to block him until he got the message. But now, my brothers are telling me he needs a kidney transplant, and we should find out if I'm compatible. When I said no, my dad called me himself to ask. He was pretty angry and upset when I told him the same, and he said it's not his fault. He didn't know I was his at the time, but really needs the help now so he can live long enough to make it up. We ended the conversation with me telling him I'd rather save my kidney for helping someone I actually care about, and I hope he finds a donor soon, but don't call me anymore. You can imagine the outrage I'm getting now? Not just my brothers, my dad's family, his new wife. All this pressure's being put on me to help out. What's hard is how my brothers have been acting. They're not compatible. Like I'm this monster, and I'm taking our dad away from us because I'm not willing to try helping him. I don't know. It's been very hard doing this, and being told by everyone in my life that it's very wrong when it's going to cost him his life. Now for the top judgment of this post, not the a-hole. If the pressure is too much, go get screened and tell the doctor you are being coerced. They should be able to just say you aren't a match. You aren't permitted to donate under these pressures. They can do that even if I don't actually get screened? I'm not positive. I suggest you contact your primary doctor about this and explain. See what your options are. Thanks for letting me know. I'll try to find out. He said it's not his fault he didn't know I was his at the time. It's literally his fault. He chose not to take a paternity test back then. He chose to just abandon you despite raising you. He chose to punish you for what your mother did. It's his fault, and he doesn't deserve your kidney. And everyone else who's angry at you over this can also get lost. They didn't do anything about his awful behavior either. Not the a-hole. This, OP became a stranger to the dad, and he did nothing after OP's mom died. Dad being sorry that there were consequences to himself is not an apology. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving money to help out my sister? Alright, this might sound like a horrible thing from the title, but please hear me out. This is a hard topic for me, and English isn't my native language, so I apologize in advance. I am an 18-year-old man, and my sister is 22. Ever since we were young, she was always the priority for my parents. Don't get me wrong, they never treated me badly, but she was obviously the one they put more effort in. She would get better clothes, a better room, an allowance, and other things. While I was never treated badly, things weren't as good for me. I was never given any pocket money by my parents, thus I started to work really early, 14, as I've learned a few skills in programming and had a good portfolio by then, GitHub, so it was easier for me to get freelancing jobs. In my country, there's some banks that allow people underage to open accounts, but they're still under supervision of their parents. Since I started to work, I became somewhat of an introvert, but that's not the point. Most of my adolescence I spent working on projects. Everything I got, I used to help out with bills at my house and save the rest in my account. The reason I did that was because it is my dream to go to a specific university. It's my dream school, as they have an extremely respected course in programming. And while college itself is free in my country, living isn't. And that school is in one of the most expensive cities in my country. Now, I'm finally 18, and we're in the middle of the entrance exams. I already passed in the first test with flying marks, and I believe the next one shouldn't be a problem as well. However, since I turned 18, I'm no longer suitable for the same kind of bank account I had, which is only for underage, and needed to change. My mother and I went to the bank to change the account, and during that time, she saw the amount I had saved. I won't put numbers, but it's enough for me to live without working for the duration of the course. Though it would be a frugal life. That day during dinner, she and my father started to talk about what I want to do in the future, and I explained to them. However, after a few moments, they stopped me in my tracks. They said that while it was all good that I had an objective, right now my sister was in financial trouble, as she just had her second kid, and her husband and her could really use some help. My mother asked me to give my sister my savings, and I was really shocked. I told her how much I worked for that, and that it was my money, and I didn't want to give it to my sister as that meant not going to my dream college, since my parents couldn't support me living there. My father said, "Well, you're still young and you can always earn more money. Your sister needs it." We argued more, and I went to my room. However, I'm being constantly harassed and called an a-hole by my family. There's so much of this that I can't help but feeling like I'm a horrible person. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Call your bank and make them aware of this and warn them of this. Make sure your account is in your name only and no one else can withdraw money. All the best to you. This, and if possible, some banks will even allow you to specifically put a list of people who are not allowed to be anywhere near the account and will call you if they try. Not the a-hole. If your sister is old enough to have 2 children and a husband, she's old enough to get her finances in line. Not to mention, it's your money. You earned it, and nobody should be forcing you to do anything you don't want to do with it. The fact that they took one look at your bank account and said, this should all go to our daughter, really does not sit right with me. Not the a-hole. It is your money. Make sure it is safe, OP. Do not give her any. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my stepsister to come stay with me? My mom moved in with her husband when I, 22 female, was 17. I moved out when I was 18. At the time, my mom's husband had his 3 daughters full-time. But last year, his oldest 14 female, started having issues due to trauma from some stuff that happened years before, and they were advised to give her space with some other family. She moved in with her grandparents, but it didn't help. Then when she was asked where she would ideally like to live, she said with me. She said she didn't really get to spend any time with me, but I was the older sister she always wanted. So, my mom called and explained what had happened she had said, and the reason she gave for wanting to live with me, and how all the professionals involved believed she needed to be comfortable and in a safe space where she felt capable of working through her trauma. And she asked me would I let her come live with me. She said before that, she knew I would say no, but she wanted to be the one to ask, because she's worried her husband would be too forceful. I told her she always knew me well, and confirmed I was not okay with that. Her husband went nuclear on me. He accused me of being selfish and abandoning my sister in her hour of need. He told me you help family when they need you, even if you don't think you can. You do everything physically possible to help them. Then he started saying I was being unfair to my mom. After maybe 20 minutes of him ranting on the phone to me, he asked me what was the issue, and I told him, I'm 22, and I'm not sure I'm equipped to help a teenager who has the struggles his daughter has. He said my choice of wording, your daughter, was not very kind. He said, at least call her my sister. I said I didn't have that kind of relationship with his girls. Then he said that's what it was all about. I told him I know he needs to help his daughter, but he does need to find someone else because I am not in the position to do it. We almost had a repeat experience after I told my mom, and she told him to stop. And the second I answered the phone, he started cussing at me, so I hung up. Now I'm kinda wondering if I am in the wrong here, because I know he's just trying to help his daughter, and apparently, she attached to me way more than I attached to her in the 3 to 4 months we lived together, and a few times I was around them since. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole at all. You were not obligated to let your stepsister or anyone else move in with you. You are certainly not responsible for the mental health of a girl with whom you really don't have a relationship. I don't know a therapist would suggest that a 14-year-old with mental health issues should move in with someone with whom they have virtually no relationship. Your stepfather's the a-hole for trying to force the responsibility of his daughter's mental health on you. And Opie let him scream at her over the phone for 20 minutes? That's what hanging up is for, followed by blocking that number. That kid is not Opie's job, and it sounds like a healthy job. Clearly not an a-hole. Well done for standing your ground and setting your boundaries. And to your mom too, for at least knowing you well enough to ask you herself first and predict your answer. I feel desperately sorry though, for your mom and stepsisters. Your mom's husband seems rageful, selfish, and lacking in empathy. I'm not surprised your stepsister is struggling so, aside from any other trauma. I hope she gets the help she needs. Not an a-hole. Good for you for knowing you can't help the kid out and saying so. Adding a kid to the household you run is hard enough. Adding a kid with trauma even more so. My mom moved in with her husband when I, 22 female, was 17. I moved out when I was 18. Stepsister said she didn't really get to spend any time with me, but I was the older sister she always wanted. She feels this way from 1 year spent in the same house? Less than 1 year. Yeah, I'd say stepsister has built up a fantasy of you and how things would be if you shared a residence. Definitely not a good starting place for a kid with trauma. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom it's her fault my sister got arrested? My 23 female, mother 41 female, is the reason why I moved out at an early age. She spent most of my childhood going out to clubs and drinking. I spent most of my time at my grandmother's or my aunt's. Not to mention that she was constantly putting me down when I was a teenager and was taking most of my money when I got a job at age 16 to pay for her gambling addiction. Her behavior did not get better when my sister, 19 female, came along. My sister has been getting into trouble since she was around 14. My mom never really seemed to give a damn, and I think my sister saw that as a permission to go and do whatever she wanted. 2 days ago, my mom called me and told me that my sister was arrested for substance possession and theft, along with her boyfriend, 27 male, and that she needed me to lend her money to bail my sister out, which I did. I went over to my mom's house to check up on my sister, and whilst I was there, my mom started saying that she doesn't understand how my sister ended so effed up, her exact words, and that she's about to kick my sister out because she's sick of her. My mom was pretty much thrashing my sister continuously. I got agitated and blatantly told my mom that it's her fault that my sister got arrested because she failed as a mother. Which I know sounds harsh, but it's the truth. My mom was furious, told me that my sister and I are just ungrateful. Then she tried to blame me for moving out of home, instead of staying and looking after my sister. Long story short, I'm no longer allowed to go over my mom's house. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Long story short, I'm no longer allowed to go over my mom's house. Long story short, this is no loss. Not the a-hole. This one, it's a blessing. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your mom sounds like an irresponsible narcissist. Yup, too wrapped up in her own world to care that her 19-year-old is off doing D's and stealing with her 27-year-old boyfriend. Throw a lot of them in the trash. Not the a-hole. If you don't actually parent your child, you can't be surprised or angry when they make bad choices. Maybe this will serve as a wake-up call for your sister, and she can turn her life around. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.